All right, so the last one that I didn't do, so I apologize, is multiple means of engagement. So have any of you used or worked with Kahoot?
Yes.
How do you like it?
I like Susan.
Like it? Your kids like it?
Yes.
Who does it with kids?
That's with
With adults? Yep. Huh? Oh, Jeopardy? Yep, absolutely.
The only challenging thing about that is the kids that I work with, you know, they don't normally process the questions. So I think that all.
See, like, I have trouble, like, as an adult, processing, like, okay, which one is the red triangle, which one is, like, not having the answers on my device. I don't know. I'm not, oh, thank you so much, Jen. So has anyone used Pear Deck? I don't want to go into this one too crazy, but Pear Deck is actually a free interactive add-on to Google Slides. So it allows you to embed interactive activities in your Google Slide presentation. So you can add in write stuff, you can add in answer questions, similar to Kahoot, but it embeds it in your Google Slide, and it's very easy to program. It really can increase your student engagement, because what they do is they can log into Pear Deck, and so as you're going through, all of their Chromebooks are following along with you. So they're forced to follow along with your presentation, and then as you get to a question, they answer the questions, and then you can see them privately, the answers. So it's a good way to formatively figure out if they're paying attention. Or they can like draw something. It's a really cool support.
So it forces them to follow what you do.
Yes.
It takes over.
Well, I mean, technically they could minimize the Chrome window, but it also tells you how many students are on it. So like if you have a class of 18, all of a sudden if someone minimizes it, you'll have a class of 17. So you'll say, oh, hey guys, someone's not on. The other thing is they won't know when the interactive questions are coming up. So if they don't have it pulled up, then they won't answer. So you'll be able to be like, hey-o, what's going on? Really cool. The free version doesn't save your sessions though. So like if you want to do it for student data and student learning, you have to like take a screenshot of their responses. I don't remember how much the paid version is. But for free, you can embed all these questions, and they have a bunch of them, like number lines, yes and no, like put your dot on if you understand what I'm talking about or not. Very cool. Nearpod does the same thing, but it's a separate website. The cool thing that I like about Nearpod is you can download your PowerPoints into it and then embed interactive activities. But Pear Deck is right native into Google Slides. So you can just add it right in there. So if you're a Google school, it makes interactive PowerPoints really easy. I feel like I have to quickly show you because it's pretty neat. So in Google Slides here, if I wanted to add an interactive activity, I could just go into my add-ons, and here I have Pear Deck. So I can just open it up. And so I can add, okay, do I want to add slides at the beginning, during, or end? So I'm going to do during my lesson, and here are all my options. So summarize what I've just learned, and they have to type. I can add in timelines. I can just ask my students to answer true or false. And each student is like a little dot. So the dots will kind of populate on what side. How are you feeling? Do you understand? So this is dragging. Same thing with questions. You can also import your own images and have them label things like anatomy of a bee, apparently. Label, graph. So cool. So all I have to do here, let's say I want to do this. So I can edit that right there. And so now, if you want to try it, oh, pardon. rocking and rolling. Oh boy, too many Google accounts. I don't know why it's asking me to do this. I can't spell, obviously. Close enough. Woohoo! So on your devices, to show you what it's like, because now we're in it. Go to joinpd.com on anything. So you could be on your computers, you could be on, so open up a web browser, joinpd.com, and then type in this NLCLW. You can do it on the computers here, anything, just open a new tab. Huh? You could, just, I mean, I feel like people were interested, so then I kind of jumped on the bandwagon. New Lemons conduct lovely watermelons. Oh, 2 people. Oh, here we go. 4, great. Everyone doesn't have to join. We can just kind of watch. Those of you who are on. So we have 9, which is neat. So now watch, which is pretty. Oh, where'd my mouse go? Here I am. 10. My computer is going to explode. Goodness gracious. Come on. All right, so now watch. Up. Yeah. Right? Force you to follow along with me.
Wait, something is off.
Oh, yours isn't working?
No, I thought my computer was spazzing. That's you.
Okay, so now, here is, right, so cool. So I'm forcing you to follow along with me. Ha, ha, ha. Now here's your activity. So now, here are my student responses. So move them around, play around. Oh my gosh, look, here you guys go. So you can choose, I can choose to project it and show it, or I can hide it so that you can feel okay saying I didn't learn anything, this is a waste of time, right? So it's a cool thing to kind of get some formative feedback as to like, are my kiddos getting it? Do I need to go through it again? And in terms of accessibility, I can set this up in front of my student with a physical disability and it advances on its own. And if I use this, all they need to do is be able to tap, or they can kind of use some other switch access, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this is nice when we talk about following along with the teacher, is they have that visual right in front of them. If they have visual difficulties, they can see exactly what you're doing. Cool. So yeah, there. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Bless you. All right, and there. So you can ask a new question, so I can add questions on the fly if I'm like, oh my God, they're not getting it. So yeah. You can do student paced if you want to. Oh, they added that in. Used to not be able to name the sessions. So that's Pear Deck. Nearpod does the same thing, but it's a separate website. So it's not native to Google, so it can be a little bit more confusing for some students. But yeah, so there's Nearpod. Pear Deck. All right, so now, the one other thing in terms of student engagement that I wanted to show you is, has anyone used or is familiar with Osmo? Yes, do you guys have it? So cool. All right, for everybody else, those of you watching at home, please Google and watch a video of Osmo. So, Osmo is an addition to an iPad.
I think blew our kids' mind when we did it.
Yeah, right? It's so neat. Let's do numbers. what I really like about Osmo, again, is that it can allow interactivity for a student with a physical disability with like maybe an able-bodied peer, or you don't have to worry about touching the screen because you have actual manipulatives. So here, I pulled up the number game. Do you have number tiles? Yes, I do. So what this does is it uses the mirror camera. I'm sorry, my back's to you and you can't see, Hillary. So it's asking me to count the die. And so what I need to do is, welcome, Goldfish Golf. Oh no, it's a different one. What is this one? So I have tiles with die. And so I need to create the number 5. Do you see what's happening? So this red piece is just a mirror. So it's using the camera and the projection from the mirror to read the manipulatives that I'm putting in front of it. So now I need the number 1. Oh boy.
How close did it get? How far away did you get?
So I think that's probably as far. But you can see how I can be pretty. Yeah, I did it. I don't know what I was supposed to do. I'll make a pathway, I think.
Are there special pieces?
So it all comes. So you can buy it on Amazon. I think this kit was $100, and I got the stand for the iPad. They have a tangram one. They have words, so I create words, and then the numbers one. So it's a 3-pack. So here, if I do, I can throw the 5, and I can be pretty flexible. It's like, oh no, that's not it. So if I wanted to give my students maybe a cue, I could just add like a piece of tape around the iPad so the student knows if they're just going to slide it in if they have some fine motor difficulty. I know I just need to slide it into that particular area for it to then pick it up and register. But it's a cool way to kind of engage in some peer play, and it doesn't require a lot of fine motor because the interactives are pretty easy. Because for some students, the iPad can be great, but it's such a flat interface that they might not get a lot of that texture. Like a lot of your equipment design projects had different texture, had different feelings, and you don't get that from the iPad. So what's nice about this is that given like I can just slide it, so it can be a pretty easy fine motor thing, but I can play a game and it's interactive. Wrong one. So cool. So I'm gonna leave this out so you guys can play with it later if you want to, because it's so much fun. They also have like a coding one where you can use coding tiles to make something move. They also have an interactive drawing one where you can draw a picture and then it comes to life. A lot of cool things with just a very simple, like, it's just a mirror attachment. But talk about engagement. So this can be like a nice, you know, like if you have a math center or a word center, it's kind of a different switch up that students can play with. Any questions about Osmo? And the apps are free, I would hope. What I don't like is that it's not customizable. So like for the word games, I can't add in the spelling words that the kids are working on. So it's like Osmo's random stupid word list. So I don't like that. One day it will get better. All right. So we did this, we did that. Any questions about AT to support UDL? No? Perfect. Awesome. Great. So now we're going to jump into AT to support reading and writing. Because for a lot of our students with physical disabilities, different from students with intellectual disabilities or learning disabilities, they might be having remedial tools, right? We're teaching them how to read because their disability is impacting their ability to read. For most students with physical disabilities, we're focusing on this compensation area. You're having difficulty accessing the text, so I'm going to make it more accessible to you. So I'm compensating for a challenge. So it's a much different approach, whereas a lot of our 504 students live in this compensation, And most of them don't need this remediation. Some of them might. So when we look at compensation tools, these are the general categories, the major categories of assistive technology for students in the area of reading for compensation. So we have text-to-speech, which we already looked at, which is just reading text aloud. Optical character recognition, which is called OCR. Does anyone know what OCR is? So that, you can say it. Are you going to say it? No? Okay. So it takes a picture of an image, right? So if I wanted, a lot of PDFs are inaccessible, means we can't listen to them. You can't copy and paste the text from there. OCR allows you to take a picture of a word and it will read it as text. So if I take a picture of the word the, OCR types a T, an H, and an E. It doesn't just take a picture. So when you scan a worksheet on your work copier, it's just making that worksheet a picture. That's why students can't type on it. That's why they can't highlight it. OCR makes it actually text. So it can be really helpful converting some of our old curriculum materials. Color overlays can be huge for some students, especially for some students with cortical visual impairments. No one picked that. But those are some students with visual difficulties who have trouble perceiving what's important or what's the visual priority, especially with white backgrounds. And all of our paper worksheets have white backgrounds. So sometimes adding cover overlays on either technology or low tech can be helpful. We've already really talked about adapting material, but the other one is distraction reduction. If you have some students who visually maybe can spark seizures from some fast-moving images, like on the CNN website and all of those ads that pop up constantly, for some students that could spark a seizure. So how can we then eliminate those distractions? So we've talked about read and write for Google. Does anyone use Speak Screen or Speak Selection on their phones or iPads? Sweet. I'm going to wait and talk about that with iOS accessibility after dinner so that we can get through stuff. So we'll talk about all of iOS accessibility after that. But what it allows you to do is listen to any text on your phone. So if you have a text message and you have this enabled, you can then listen to any text. So I have a text message right now. If I highlight it, which is not going to let me do at this point in time.
Working on it now.
It will read it out loud for me. So if I'm a student either with low vision or has difficulty, I can hear my text messages out loud. The other thing is that Microsoft just in January added their learning tools. So we're going to watch this little video. They're not accessible for Macs, so I don't have them. I haven't used them a lot. But they have a very engaging advertisement.
The true purpose of education is to create.
I'm so inspired.
It was a little hard for me. People laugh whenever I read sometimes.
Well, they knew how to read, and I didn't. I will never be good at reading. I will probably be held back again. It highlights the words to know where I am.
When it's reading, I see spaces between the words, and it's easier to focus on.
The first time I actually could read that book, I was proud of myself.
I was very proud of myself. Good job, Julia.
When technology
I mean, take all my money, Microsoft. If you're going to teach my kid to
I want
read.
to read every book in here.
Oh my gosh. Not to roll my eyes. So, similar to read and write for Google, what this Microsoft Immersive Reader will do is similar to the advertisement showed you, is that it will read text out loud, so similar to read and write for Google. But what it also does is it can then adjust the spacing of text for you, and it will,
Learning Tools Immersive Reader creates a reading.
I don't think the voice is as good as read and write for Google.
Comprehension for learners of all ages and abilities.
So here, I can adjust the size. So again, if I'm a student with low vision or I have difficulty with my visual speed, I can change the theme. So if I do have CVI or any difficulty, I can then have that black background easily. I have 2 options for fonts. Interesting, I can't really figure out when you would really want this, but this one I see. So what this will do is it will separate it by syllables. So if you do have students who maybe have difficulty sounding out multi-syllable words, it will separate them by syllables, which I find a little distracting. But the other thing is that it will highlight parts of speech in different colors. So cool. I just can't really see the true function of it. But when you think about visually clean, what I like is that you can copy and paste text in. And if you just want a student to be able to listen to text and follow along with no clutter and very clean, it provides that for you. So again, when we have some students with physical disabilities who can visually get tired or can't see a lot of visual stimuli, this is a pretty nice tool. And it's free. But I don't get the grammar stuff. But I'm sure there's a student out there who would like it. The other thing is you can add in a reading guider. So similar to like those low-tech ones, which is nice.
Abilities. The menu in the upper right corner of the screen allows you to change the appearance of your reading material or hear your text read out.
So, cool support. Again, if you have the targeted student who needs this clean layout, it can work well. And then Bookshare. Has anyone heard of or used Bookshare? Oh. So Bookshare, it is a legal requirement for publishers to have accessible formats of their books. So if you have a history book and you have a student who is blind, legally the publisher needs to be able to give you a Braille copy. Or if you have a student with low vision, they have to give you a zoomed in or a large print copy. Same thing for students with disabilities, with learning disabilities. If you have a student with a print disability, the publisher has to give you an electronic file format so the student can listen to it. Bookshare is the website that we use to get those file formats. So, important for you to know, any student with a physical disability who needs a different form of a textbook, you can sign them up for Bookshare and it will provide that format for you for free. Because the idea is my school has purchased this history textbook for my student who is blind and they can't access it. So I need the accessible format. So Bookshare does that. They also then, like I said, it is for any student with print disabilities, but they provide Braille, large print, and audio support for any students. So think of the student who can't access a traditional textbook. Now you can use all sorts of things to access your textbooks. And it's free, which is great. So if you ever need the electronic. And this video just kind of talks about what it is. These are 2 supports that you can read Bookshare books on. One is the VoiceStream app and the other one is Read2Go. This visual shows you the VoiceStream app. Similar to that Microsoft one, I can increase the text really large. I can highlight just one sentence. It will highlight the sentence and the word. And this one has, I think, up to 50 different voices that I can download. So like I can have an English accent. I can have an Indian accent if the student prefers. Lots of different accents available on this app. And it's only $20, which is really nice. So it'll read stuff. I can define a word. I can bookmark it or I can highlight it. And I can add notes within my books as well. So then, looking at the low-tech side of it, again, kind of along the lines of your equipment design, is some students just might have difficulty with physically accessing, like turning the page. And there are electronic page turners, which is fascinating. But thinking about, you're all very creative and now know that you can make some amazing supports. But you can create your own page turners possibly for a student. When you think about the fine motor capabilities of turning those very thin pages, it can be really hard. Or even your really tiny kiddos, and turning the pages of those board books can be virtually impossible for lots of students, not even just students with physical disabilities. So thinking about, you can add popsicle sticks, you can add binder clips. I've even had some teachers use just paper clips with a couple of pieces of construction paper underneath. So it just gives you a little bit more of a lip to be able to turn the page on their own. And sometimes just adding this little bit lets them be independent, and now they feel so much better, and they're like, I want to read a book now, and it's not a challenge for me, and it doesn't hold me back, or I don't have to ask someone else to turn the page for me. I can do it myself, which is huge. So kind of thinking in terms of assistive technology for compensating for a difficulty, you can really make a lot of books accessible for students very easily. So OCR, again, will convert any text to any picture, to text. So Claro Scan Pen is one of my favorites. So I want to show you what that one looks like.